Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Llandudno FC's brand new podcast. It's a podcast that we're planning on running monthly, and it's going to show you the insides of what actually happens in the background of A, running a football club, B, keeping the football club going, and also there'll be questions that you guys can ask yourselves that we'll ask certain individuals that we're going to bring on the show. Today, for this month, we'd like to welcome our first team manager, Jordan Hadaway. Welcome. Jordan's had an absolute roller coaster of a ride. Anyone watching this podcast will realise that if you've got just a couple of brain cells. Obviously, Jordan came a part of the club under an old regime. That regime left, and Jordan very bravely stepped up and took the job. And may I personally say, what a fairy tale ride so far it's been. But enough from me. Jordan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. How have you found? Tell me the first question from me. How did you find when myself rang you and said the job's yours?
Yeah.
I want you to take it. How was the feeling? What was the feeling?
I was nervous to start, but I backed myself in terms of recruitment of players that I could get into Llandudno. I was not naive to the task that we had, but I also knew that I'd worked alongside you for 6 months before that, and I also knew that it wasn't just me on my own. There was a group of us that were going to push it forward. And the biggest task was going to get a competitive side on the pitch, but I feel like we did that quite early. Straight after that phone call, I was on to about 7 or 8 phone calls. I probably did no work in that school day. So it was good, but it was very fast. Everything we did was very fast.
Was it? Obviously, it was a challenge accepted, but accepting that challenge from that phone call to now. Imagine yourself back sat where you were sat when we had that conversation. Has this journey been how you anticipated it to have been?
Yeah, I remember after our first 3 games, we'd lost the first 3. And I remember standing in the clubhouse doing the analysis with the players and said there's going to be more lows than there is going to be highs this season, because that's just naturally how it's going to be. But we have to make sure that we try and stay as level throughout the whole season as we can. And for me, from a coach's point of view, there's been a lot of lows, and when they've been low, they've been really low. But the highs, we've had maybe 14, 15 highs over the season so far. They've outweighed all the lows. The journey's been a bit difficult, hard, but it's definitely one that's been worth doing. And I've seen it as an opportunity for the club to reset and rebrand and rebuild in a different way.
That's really good feedback, yeah. So with building the squad, let's not forget, obviously, guys, we've got 2 squads to build, haven't we? We've got the first team squad, or at the time it was a playing squad, which involved under 23s, etc. that we've got. But you had to build a management squad as well. Which did you find harder to do, and which did you find gelled quicker, for want of a sense?
Yeah, the management team I've got, for me, is probably one of the best in the league. It's got everything. It's got people that know the club inside out. It's got people that have got many years of experience, and then it's also got energy, enthusiasm, and people that are well connected within the area. So that was not the hardest part, because obviously I know Andy. I knew him before I come to the football club, and I class him as a friend. Grant is somebody that was a big reason why I stayed at the football club. He knows the place inside out, and someone that I trust. And then obviously Dyer, that connection with the fans. And someone from the previous year, and then obviously adding Rebecca as well. We had a complete management team then, and then since then we've obviously added Cameron Darling, who's been a breath of fresh air. The playing squad was difficult, because it wasn't just recruiting 4 or 5 players to add to a squad. It was recruiting 18 players plus supplementing the reserves, because I took a lot off the reserves. But I only brought players in that I knew were good enough if they had the support and guidance. But more importantly, they were good people, because we were going to be in a lot of difficult times and difficult situations. So good people can get you out of that in this league. So, and everyone that watches us week in, week out, I think can know and understand that the group that we've got is very, very strong. They're honest, and they're hardworking, and they won't shy away from a challenge. And that was one thing that I needed to make sure we brought in. So, and that was the first thing I did.
I think the greatest feedback I've had from, obviously, unfortunately for myself, the position I'm in as chairman of the club, my heart belongs in the dugout. My heart belonged on the pitch when I was playing, and then your mind tells you yes and your body tells you no. So it's hard transitioning for myself on the sidelines, where the crowd are and everything, etc. One really great positive thing I've heard, and I've heard it over and over again from a lot of different people, is that you can be 4-2 down against Bangor when we were ground sharing at Conway, which leads me to another question in a minute. Ground sharing at Imorva, and you're in the 94th minute, and Conway are winning, but Llandudno looked like the winning side because they were like warrior poets. They're just battling and battling and battling. Question to you: do you feel that this was a young side that didn't have that experience, or is it just a side that you've created that has the pride and the passion of Llandudno?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think we've got a lot of young players that are hungry and want opportunities. So I think that naturally feeds into a mentality of we're never giving up, because it's kind of their first shot at the level, as well as myself. But I do feel like everybody that's come to the club has bought into what we wanted. It was a clean slate, so it's quite easy to materialise what you want within the group. And I've always said from day one, if we lose a game, we'll lose it respectfully. Even against Buckley on Friday, we lost 5-1. People that come to the game probably knew that it wasn't a 5-1 game. We'll always go till the end, and we'll never ever shy away from challenges. And I think every game, Bangor's just won. Put Maddock away, where we were 2-0 down for 84 minutes of the game. I still thought we were the better team and we were always going to win it. Prestatyn away, where we've been 2-0 down. Prestatyn at home, where we've been 2-0 down. That's just to name a few. I never ever think we're out of a game, and that's testament to the players, really.
Absolutely. A little statistic there you just mentioned. We were 2-0 down against Porthmadog, home and away, and we were 2-0 down against Prestatyn, home and away, and we won all 4 games 3-2. I think even just a tenner on those games, that conundrum, would have relayed this pitch probably a few times over, and what have you. But yeah, great testament to what you've created here as well. Moving on to, you mentioned that as you were building the team, you took a lot of under-23s away. This comes into a question from Gordon Woodgett. He's asked, how do you feel the young lads stepped up to the mark? And obviously with the January window opening, we've brought in a few, would we say senior players, a few more experienced players, to help the cause. Everyone knows reasons why. Do you still feel the younger lads are still, I say, frothing at the bit? Still wanting that chance and whatever. We certainly haven't let them down. But do you feel they're gaining experience from these guys?
Yeah, my biggest frustration is that some people aren't patient sometimes, and they see, for example, a guy coming through the door who's 32, who's played the league for many years, and they don't see the bigger picture of we've got to stay in the league. And these guys they can learn from. I've been a reserve manager for 4 seasons, so I would love nothing more, I'm a young lad as well, than to give as many more young players a chance. But what I need to make sure is we maintain the status in the league, to be able to give them chances going forward. So I think the young lads have got a massive part to play, and the way the reserves are performing at the moment, they're going from strength to strength, and there's probably 5 or 6 lads in there that we're always watching. And what people don't see behind the scenes is myself, Grant, at every reserve game, whether I'm playing or I'm from the side, we're at every reserve game. So that means that we have got a close eye. We train on the same night as well. So the reserves, while I'm here, for as long as I'm here, the reserves will be a massive part of what we want to do, because I want them to be as competitive as the first team.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant to hear that, because to name a few, and if I miss one or two out, then apologies, but obviously Alfie and Freddie Banning, Frankie Montgomery, Thomas Guinn, and apologies if I miss anyone else. Last season they were playing under 16s. This season they've had a handful together, 4, 6, 10 appearances for the first team, and I've got to be brutally honest, I've not really thought these are young lads, and it's fantastic to watch, but I do have to pinch myself every now and then and think, some of them are 16 years of age. Yeah. Which is incredible. Hi guys, we take a short break from this podcast just to thank our sponsors for the podcast this month. Our sponsors is Crest Cooperative. They're a charity-based firm based in North Wales, helping the unemployed get re-employed and also build their skills and what have you, with a very poignant slogan of big enough to deliver, small enough to care. Crest, we thank you very much.
Everyone that's made an appearance in the first team from the reserves has done very, very well, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. Just a quick statistic, before the Buckley game on Friday, 1,437 minutes were played so far this season by under 23 players before the Buckley game, which is a crazy statistic, but a good one for the club and a good one for the 23s, because it shows a pathway. Absolutely.
And obviously it's not a secret, the Welsh FA took away our academy, and that is proving it's probably easier to split the atom to get that academy back, to be honest with you. So our plans of rebuilding our youth team structures from that are well in force. They're rolling on, for argument's sake, for us to get those back. Not academy, may I add, but are you excited about that there's possible of a 19s, a 17s, a 15s coming in next season?
Yeah, I want as many young players playing at the football club, because it gives me more opportunity to pick from a larger group of players and less work for me to go and recruit if they're good enough. So age does not bother me in terms of playing at the level. It's whether they've got the ability, but more importantly the mentality of the maturity that's needed to compete. And if there's 40 players that I can pick from youth teams, then it makes my job easier, because there's a lot of players coming through then.
Yeah. So a stature to yourself that, if I could just explain to everyone, if I was to try and explain who Jordan Hadaway was, you've been manager of the ladies as well this season, which I'm sure, not just because the lady, it's another team to look after and what have you. The amount of work you accepted to take on. Myself being in my second season as chairman, I think your first season of manager at Llandudno Football Club has been a roller coaster. My experience so far of being chairman has been a roller coaster as well. I'm pretty sure both of us would change things and maybe say no to certain things and what have you. Do you look back and think that's made Jordan Hadaway so far in the 12 months? Or do you look back at it and think maybe I've overpushed myself slightly or anything like that? Don't get me wrong, the ladies are showing great form. They're looking at possibly winning the title, which is a credit to themselves and what have you. Absolutely fantastic. So proud of them. But I'm talking personally to you now. It was a lot, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it still is a lot. And there's been times this season where I've needed to take a step back, and I haven't been able to, because it's been full throttle. But I'm somebody that when someone shows loyalty and commitment to something, and for me, them girls, they stuck by the place, and they didn't walk away. And that was led by Sarah and Claire Coville. So I'd already agreed to lead them this season before anything else happened. So I would never go back on my word. I always said I'd see the season out because that's what I committed to do. And then obviously when the first team job come along, for me personally, from an opportunity point of view, I couldn't really turn it down. So I said I'd just juggle it. It hasn't been easy, but I'm very, very lucky. I've got Billy Fuller in the ladies that if I need a Wednesday off, I just don't come in. He does it. Although he does have a lot of holidays. He does go on a lot of holidays, but he's been brilliant. And obviously the opposite side of that, the staff that I've got on the first team, you know, I can kind of give things to them to kind of take on as well. So I've just been lucky with the people I've had around me and the understanding of I'm doing a lot. And I've had a very high input in the reserves as well this year. But that's because I feel like longer term it's going to help the club. So, you know, I won't walk away from that.
No, that's great. That is brilliant to hear. And obviously it's good to hear that you're managing your management as well. Obviously it was hard when we had the pitch taken away from us via the Welsh FA. We ended up ground sharing with Nantporth, which again was very hard for myself going over there all the time. It was hard to think that this is actually a home game where it felt like it was an away game. Beginning of this season, we agreed a term with Conway at Morva to play at Conway. Both two very different grounds, even though, you know, a pitch is so wide and so long, but both very well organised, very well run, and again by volunteers, by families, etc., as Llandudno is. So the question now is, when we got the 3G relayed, I'm sure you remember I came in, it was our first game back on the 3G, came into the dressing rooms, which is something I never do. I'm not that type of chairman, but I just asked you for 2 minutes and I welcomed everyone home. I'll be honest with you, it was a very warm feeling for myself. And I explained to quite a lot of players that you brought in at the beginning of the season, the badge means an awful lot. You know, whether your playing ability is to a certain extent, but your pride you show for the badge is massive and what have you. How did you feel? Did the team change? Did it react to coming from Conway to home? Did you change coming from Conway to home?
Well, I recruited a team that was going to be able to play at home. So I had a lot of good footballers in the team because I thought we would have been home quicker than what we were. But playing at Conway, we were really successful. We picked up a lot of points there. But that's because we had to change the style of play. So we didn't play nice football. We sat in, we counter-attacked, and it worked. And then we obviously, mid-season, then had to change back to coming here on a brilliant surface. But we didn't change too much because don't change something that's working. And now we're at a point where I feel like the playing style's getting to where we want it to be. We just need the results to follow. But that first game back was written at home, I think, Friday night, was it? Well, you know, it was written in the stars. 1-0 for the majority of the game, 1-1 82 minutes, and then to go with Liam Ellis against his former club. And he is someone that, in that group of players that we've got, he works hard, he's honest, he'll give you absolutely everything to the end, and he deserved that goal to finish off. I think it was 94 that we won the game in, and 3 valuable points. But that raw, when we scored, there was 400 or 500 here, maybe more. And it was a special moment. And Andy always says to me, you won't remember every game that you manage or every game that you're playing, but you'll remember certain moments, and that'll be one that I'll remember forever.
Good. The one thing I need to say is that the support that you've had from supporters could have gone the opposite way, really, couldn't it? But they have been fantastic, haven't they? You know, there's a hardcore, I like to call them our little group of ultras, but there's a hardcore of fans there who have backed you all the way, and I'm really pleased with that. You know, obviously that's helped in a sense as well.
Yeah, I feel like I remember a turning point in the season. We were 2-0 down at Prestatyn at Conway, and we played atrociously against Carl Clare's team, and the fans were getting frustrated and voicing their opinions, which is rightly so. We went in at half time and we said, look, you know, these people are paying £7 every week or more to come and watch you. That first half performance just isn't good enough. And what you're slowly seeing is they're going off the terraces or behind the barrier and they're going into the bar, or they're going home and they're not returning and they've stuck by you. You don't want to be coming back home, because we weren't back here at that point, back home with a good following. So sort yourselves out. And then that, you know, we didn't talk about anything tactical. All we did was move Brownie forward and bring Alex Boss back in. And that's the team talk I'll remember for a long time. And it just changed everything. We got the first goal and then we went for it to make it 3-2. But the only thing I would say about the fans, I'd like them to be a little bit louder, you know, on the touchline, and make their presence known, because out of all the clubs in the league, I'd only say Holywell have a better following, or same following as us. You know, we take 100, 150 wherever, and we have 300-400 here. So they just need to be a little bit louder, even if that is giving me a little bit of negative comments. I've got big shoulders, so
I think we've got to look at that. That's a cry from the manager. It's a small statement, and I'm pretty sure they'll take that on board.
But they've been brilliant.
They really will.
They've been brilliant.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
They could have easily have walked away and turned when we lost the first 6 games of the season, but they didn't. They still stuck by us.
A lot of people did.
Yeah.
Way before that as well. Way before that. So we've not really touched on your previous clubs. Obviously, you've been at Druids, that unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. You've been at Holywell. I've got to be brutally honest, I don't think the fans or anyone who's really interested in that, I think they're more interested in your family backing is huge as well, isn't it? You know, we've got to praise mum and dad and family, etc. And it's been great for me as a chairman to see, because I'm very family orientated, obviously wife and sons, etc. and mum. Follow me, support me, etc. And it does help me a lot along the way. Has this helped you? Is it always good?
The funny part is my dad goes and watches Holywell every week. But my mum always says wherever Jordan goes, I'm going to watch, but he won't. He just stays and watches Holywell. So I can't wait for them to come up here on a Friday night. But yeah, I think for me, I have a network of people and I stay close to them people, and definitely my family are part of that. I think you need that to be successful. You need it. Previous clubs, you know, Holywell was a great starting point for me, my local club, and still holds, you know, I'm still fond of them memories. I learned quite a lot. And then Druids was my best learning experience. I learned a hell of a lot there, and I would not take any of that time back. It might have been difficult at times, but, you know, I think what I've learned there has really, you know, when things have gone wrong here, in terms of when people are panicking about the pitch not being ready and we're in the relegation zone for 5 weeks running. I'd experienced more difficult situations elsewhere before I'd come here, so I found that as I was quite calm and relaxed, because this situation was nowhere near what I'd dealt with before. But yeah, that experience has really set me up for this, which I wouldn't take it back.
Good. That's good to hear. Good to hear. No regrets, great experiences, and you bring them along with this life learning experience that we're going through. Couple more questions, just a quick fire at you.
Okay.
What's been your lowest point at Llandudno FC?
Friday night, getting beat at Buckley, getting beat here against Buckley, because I don't think we deserved to lose the game. Refereeing decisions went against us in key moments of the game, and that was a massive game with a lot of pressure put onto it. But luckily, results went in our way. You know, midweek results and stuff. So that was definitely my lowest.
So back to a positive one. What's been your highest?
I don't think you can turn away from beating Portmaddock away. You know, putting us 10 points clear of them, and scoring in the 84th, 94th and 97 to win the game. You know, that's probably my best moment. But my most emotional moment was beating Prestatyn away in the Cup, because if you would have said we'd be in a Cup final at the start of the season, I would never have believed you. So that was probably my most emotional, but my best one was Portmaddock away.
Well, let's hope there's more best points.
Yeah.
For sure. So we're going to sort of wrap up this month's podcast from there, which I want to thank Jordan very, very much for being our guest. and I will invite you back for the podcast after April.
Yeah.
So we can sit down and we can have a good chat about how everything's gone from then. Thanks very much for watching this month's first podcast of Landed No FC. If you'd like to ask any questions, please see the email address below. Fire them in. Thank you to Gordon Woodgett for asking his question to Jordan. So again, thank you very much to my guest this month, Jordan Hadaway, manager of Landed No FC. Next month will be an ex-manager, a manager who in his own right took us to European football. It'll be Alan Morgan. We're going to bring him across from the border to sit down on the couch. So any questions, please fire them away at us from the website below, and we'll see you then. All the best.